The fog hung thick over Whitechapel that night, wrapping the streets in a damp, choking shroud. Somewhere footsteps echoed, hurried, purposeful, before fading into silence. And then a scream, brief, cut short. Moments later, a constable rounds the corner and stops cold. At his feet lies a woman, her throat slashed so deep it nearly severs her head. Her body posed, mutilated with a surgeon's precision. It was August 31st, 1888. The woman was called Mary Ann Nichols, and her killer would become the most infamous murderer in history. What kind of person commits such unspeakable acts and vanishes without a trace? Today we're diving into one of the most terrifying crime sprees London has ever seen. 5 women murdered within 3 months, all in the East End. Their killer? Never caught. You'll hear about the desperate lives of the victims, the gruesome nature of the crimes, and the city's frantic, fumbling investigation. We'll examine the theories, the letters, and the panic that gripped Victorian England. But this story isn't just about a murderer. It's about a city on the brink, fueled by fear, press hysteria, and deep-rooted social neglect. Because Jack the Ripper didn't just kill, he exposed a darkness London tried to ignore. To understand these crimes, you've got to picture Whitechapel in 1888. The East End was overcrowded, under-policed, and teeming with desperation. Entire families crammed into single rooms, gin shops on every corner. Women, many abandoned or widowed, sold their bodies just to survive the night. The Ripper's 5 known victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, weren't just names on a coroner's ledger. They were women fighting to stay afloat in a brutal system that discarded them. Mary Ann Nichols, or Polly as she was known, was 43. Estranged from her husband, living in and out of workhouses. She'd just earned 4p, enough for a bed, but she'd spent it on drink. Hours later, she was found in Bucks Row, her throat slashed, abdomen mutilated. A week later, Annie Chapman, 47, struggling with illness and alcoholism, was killed in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Her body was gutted, her uterus removed. It was this detail that first hinted that something more methodical was happening. Someone sinister with anatomical knowledge was stalking the streets. And it didn't take long for the whispers to start growing. The East End was no stranger to violence, but this was different. This was ritualistic, calculated, and entirely without remorse. Then came the double event. September 30th, 1888. 2 murders, less than an hour apart. Elizabeth Stride was found just off Berner Street, her throat freshly cut, but no mutilation. Some theorised the killer was interrupted midway through, but 45 minutes later, another body was found. Catherine Eddowes, mutilated beyond recognition. Her face slashed, kidney removed. A piece of Eddowes' bloody apron was discovered in a doorway nearby. Above it, scrawled in chalk, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." The police, fearing anti-Semitic riots, ordered it wiped clean before it could be photographed. Then came the letters. Hundreds arrived at police stations and newspapers. Most were hoaxes, but one stood out. Written in red ink, it began, "Dear Boss." It taunted the police, described the murders with chilling glee. It was signed, "Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." The name stuck, and so did the fear. As autumn deepened, the city became a tinderbox. Vigilante patrols roamed the streets. Women refused to go out after dark. Scotland Yard, pressured and overwhelmed, brought in detectives, surgeons, even psychics. But the killer stayed one step ahead. Then came the final known victim. Mary Jane Kelly was different. Younger, just 25, and she had a room of her own in Miller's Court. On the 9th of November, her landlord sent someone to collect rent. They peered through her window and stumbled back in horror. Mary Jane's body lay on the bed, hacked and butchered beyond comprehension. Her face was unrecognisable. Her heart had been removed. It was the Ripper's most savage act, and the last officially attributed to him. After that, the killings stopped, or at least the ones we know about. The public, meanwhile, was gripped by terror and morbid fascination. Newspapers churned out daily updates, often sensationalised, stoking panic and reinforcing class divisions. For the poor, the message was clear: no one cares if you die. For the authorities, it was humiliation. The world was watching, and Scotland Yard had nothing. No fingerprints. There was no such thing as DNA. They had no reliable eyewitnesses. All they had were bodies and fear. So who was Jack the Ripper? Over the years, suspects have ranged from butchers to surgeons, aristocrats to lunatics. Some claimed it was a Freemason cover-up. Others pointed fingers at Prince Albert himself. One of the strongest suspects remains Aaron Kosminski, a Polish-Jewish barber with known mental health issues, institutionalized shortly after the murders. A later disputed DNA analysis seemed to link him to Catherine Eddowes. But no one was ever charged, and perhaps that's part of the legend. Jack the Ripper became less of a man and more of a myth, a symbol of evil in human form. But what often gets lost is the human cost. 5 women, real lives, erased. Not because they were targeted personally, but because they were vulnerable, and no one protected them. Jack the Ripper vanished into history, but the questions remain. How could a killer so brazen, so brutal, simply disappear? What did the police overlook? Or, the harder question, what did they choose to ignore? In 1888, the East End's women were treated as invisible. Their murders became grim headlines, a spectacle for the public, but few in power saw them as lives worth saving. That neglect gave Jack the Ripper space to operate, and the freedom to vanish. The victims, Polly Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, were not nameless, not fallen women. They were daughters, sisters, mothers. Each lived a life shaped by hardship, poverty, and resilience. Yet in death they were reduced to symbols. And over time, even their names were eclipsed by the myth of their killer. More than a century later, the true identity of Jack the Ripper may still be unknown. But what we do know is this: when society devalues certain lives, predators thrive. And that remains a lesson worth remembering. Next time we'll uncover another case where identity was everything, and the lies went deeper than anyone imagined. Until then, stay curious and never forget that some stories, no matter how haunting, deserve to be told. Until next time. Oh yes, I almost forgot. If you like this channel and its content, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support means all the world, and let me know in the comments how you like the new format. I'm eager to see your feedback, and please let me know other stories or cases that you'd like us to investigate together. And thank you for listening. We don't have the most subscribers on YouTube, but we have the best. Thanks again.